This was my squad lineup throughout episode 5 Thieves that I used for a majority of my time climbing up to Mastery 1000 whenever I played solo. Each character I chose complemented one another and allowed me to achieve a squad composition that I enjoyed rotating between. Starting things off, the Joker was an easy decision to include because he can increase his grenade damage with certain talents and cause enemies to receive more damage with the Psychopirate's Psionic Virus from episode 5 Thieves and the Corrupted Heatwave's Incendiary Charge Grenade. Talents like Bring Down the House, Witty Repart, Ring-a-Ding, and Ultimate Volatility can increase Joker's grenade damage by up to a total of 310%. Combined with Psychopirate's Psionic Virus and Corrupted Heatwave's Incendiary Charge, we can cause enemies to receive up to 700% more damage. This will increase damage dealing sources such as our grenades, firearms, traversals, and melees, but also increase the damage burn and poison can do too. What makes Joker unique is being able to make his next grenade burn enemies after being airborne for 5 seconds thanks to his Dramatic Irony talent. He can keep the burn going with Top Banana, which will increase your firearm damage by 75% and cause critical hits to burn enemies. With at least 2 pieces of the Tier 1 Catwoman set, Feline Grace, and the Thieves episode bonus, live grenades can drop by melee hits, crit hits, harvests, and counters. In addition to this, Joker has the Who's There talent that can increase shield capacity by 40%, shield harvest damage by 100%, and can drop live grenades after each shield harvest. For Joker's melee weapon, I chose the Reverse Flash Lightning Strike from episode 2 Duality, since it can cause any electrified enemies hit by a melee to burn and deal 15% of its maximum health as damage to enemies within 10 meters. For the Traversal mod, we have the Corrupted Steel Jacket that I got from defeating the episode 5 Brainiac. Finally, a helpful yet optional item would be a Tier 1 Scarecrow item, which will allow our critical hits to also apply poison. If you don't want to apply burn from your critical hits and grenades, remove the Top Banana and Dramatic Irony talents. This will allow us to maximize our critical hits and thus the Feline Grace bonus that drops live grenades on critical hits. We can either afflict Livewire Bolt with our melee Affliction Strike, or Lawless's Ultimate Energizer talent that will electrify enemies within 20 meters of her. At the time of recording, this was also the loadout that I used to defeat Brainiac at Mastery 1000 on episode 5 Thieves, since he was able to be poisoned, but it could be a bug and Rocksteady might fix this in the future. Joker's gear and augment selection aimed to keep him afloat while maintaining shields and landing critical hits. The Tier 1 Catwoman set, Feline Grace, is highly effective with critical hits since we can have up to a 20% chance to drop live grenades on crits or melees. Our pistol is a secondary weapon that may not be used too often and is chosen to get the 3-piece bonus for the Feline Grace set. So we chose critical hit chance, shield harvest chance, and shield regeneration on critical hits. The shield with critical hit chance, shield overcharge, and electrified resistance to minimize the traversal stun in case you get hit by any snipers. Next, on the Lucky Charm, we have ammo gain from critical hits, squad ultimate duration, and shield regeneration on critical hits. These allow us to have a consistent ammo supply for our assault rifle and slow down enemy fire since we will be a floating pigeon, which makes us an easy target. The shield regeneration is supported with our Psychopirate's Psionic Virus, having another plus 1% shield regeneration on critical hits and plus 10% critical hit chance. Since we also have a chance to drop live grenades on critical hits, we have a plus 2% shield regeneration for each enemy hit by a grenade on our Heatwave's Incendiary Charge, alongside increases to damage since we aim to drop lots of grenades. All this shield regeneration may be redundant, but it allows us to theoretically always have fully overcharged shields and regenerate very quickly if we need it. For our neck mod, we have the Tier 1 Scarecrow set up with electrified resistance, squad ultimate duration, and squad ultimate resource from enemy kills, allowing us to fend off any snipers and non-flash infused enemies a little bit easier. As mentioned earlier, we have the Corrupted Steel Jacket Traversal for a 100% increase in our damage dealt for every second spent airborne, up to a maximum of 2,000%. Then our reverse flash's lightning strike has increases to melee damage, but most importantly, affliction resource on melee hits. This helps us get our Livewire Bolt affliction a little bit faster so that we can guarantee our critical hits thanks to the 100% critical hit chance on electrified enemies. In addition to this, whenever we hit an electrified enemy with a melee attack, they will burn and deal 15% of their max health as damage to enemies within 10 meters. Combined with the Feline Grace being able to drop live grenades on melee hits and shield harvests during Thieves missions, we can have a thunderous melee attack that can potentially wipe out a group quickly or set up an alley-oop for a teammate like Lawless. Lawless was the next character I wanted to include because of her talents that can electrify enemies with grenade hits, traversal attacks, counters, melee kills, sniper critical hits, or upon activating the squad ultimate. The talent, Like to Charge, will cause your next grenade to electrify enemies hit if you've been airborne for 6 seconds. Flash Lawton will cause your traversal attack hits to electrify enemies. Out of Bubblegum will cause successful counters to electrify enemies within 20 meters. Shock and Awe will electrify enemies within 10 meters after melee kills. And last but not least, Stunner will give critical hits with snipers a 50% chance to electrify enemies. And as mentioned earlier, Ultimate Energizer will electrify enemies within 20 meters upon activation of the squad ultimate. For her gear, we also like having 3 pieces of the tier 1 Catwoman set Feline Grace and combine it with 2 pieces of the tier 2 Catwoman set Cat Claws. Now, whenever we damage enemies with our traversal attack, we also make them harvestable and electrified. This way, it can guarantee the next firearm hits will be critical hits. Now, we can either harvest or get critical hits to cause enemies to drop live grenades. For the grenade, we continue to use the Corrupted Heatwave grenade to make enemies receive 500% more damage from all sources. Alongside being able to drop live grenades by harvesting, Live Feed will allow us to easily regenerate her traversal attack by 5% whenever we electrify enemies. Field harvesting enemies allows Lawless to also drop resources for her team, which can be super helpful in keeping your resources available. Looking into the gear and augments chosen for Lawless, we aim to use our traversal attack very frequently in order to make enemies shield harvestable and afflict them with Livewire Bolt. The gear and augments will be subjective to what you want, so you can either copy what I chose or use it as a blueprint to make your own. In order to get our 2 pieces of the tier 2 Catwoman set, Cat Claws, we had the sniper rifle, Stiletto Sharp, with increases to sniper rifle damage and critical hit damage. For our lucky charm, we chose 50% damage while shield is at 100% since we will be shield harvesting so much, and we chose plus 20% squad ultimate duration so we can slow down any non-flash infused enemies. With the tier 1 Catwoman set, we have the pistol, goes with everything, as our secondary firearm, meant to give us another option for shield harvest chance and shield regeneration on critical hits. Our neck mod, we wanted additional grenade damage, squad ultimate duration, and squad ultimate resource from enemy kills so that we can activate the ultimate more often. Then the shield. Riding reflex was set up with more critical hit chance, shield overcharge, and electrified resistance. Our traversal was the corrupted steel jackets, brittle bones, because of the maximum 2000% increase to our damage dealt for every second spent airborne. We chose plus 10% damage to grunts, plus 15% traversal attack damage, and plus 30% to enemies 25 meters and further. On the Ratcatcher melee, I like the additional melee and suicide strike damage, and I usually always choose the plus 15% affliction resource on melee hits. Then on the Heatwave's incendiary charge grenade, we buff our damage as much as we can since we will be ideally dropping live grenades thanks to the tier 1 Catwoman bonuses. Mrs. Freeze was set up to apply burn and poison to enemies through her traversal attacks while being able to quickly regenerate her traversal attack to constantly stay on the move. We lean into the stacked deck, Corrupted Heatwave, and the Dr. Poison and Scarecrow synergy in order to cause enemies to receive up to 1,350% more damage. Now, burn, and poison will do more damage over time, while we drop grenades by landing critical hits or melees thanks to the tier 1 Catwoman bonus. Thanks to the 1350% more damage enemies receive, all of our attack sources should see a decent increase and support the burn and poison damage over time, as well as supporting our other squad members so they can do even more damage too. At 50x combo per talent, 0 point will cause enemies to receive up to an additional 40% more damage if they are within 20 meters. Cause and effect will make each melee hit on the same enemy cause them to take 20% more damage, up to 60% for 15 seconds. Prolonged exposure allows our critical hits with assault rifles to cause enemies to take 30% more damage for 10 seconds. If all of these talents and abilities are combined, this will allow Mrs. Freeze to make enemies take up to 1480% more damage just through her alone. For Mrs. Freeze's gear and augments, we want to look for defensive augments since we will cause enemies to receive more damage, and this way we can stay alive to keep the Will of Fire burning. Starting off with a stacked deck, since that will be our main weapon to use and shoot. I opted for critical hit chance to be paired with the plus 3% traversal attack resource from critical hits. The shield harvest chance could be swapped out if you want, but I left it there in case we have a non-burning enemy to try and harvest. On our tier 1 Catwoman heavy weapon, Charm Offensive, we have critical hit chance, shield harvest chance, and plus 1% shield regeneration on critical hits with that firearm. To get our 2-piece bonus, we had the tier 1 Catwoman shield with critical hit chance, shield overcharge, and frozen resistance. Our neck mod is the tier 1 Scarecrow so that our critical hits apply poison on the enemy hit, and we chose electrified resistance, squad ultimate duration, and plus 10% squad ultimate resource from enemy kills. To create our villain synergy with Scarecrow, we have the Dr. Poison's Affliction Attunement as our lucky charm with ammo gain from critical hits, squad ultimate duration, and plus 1% shield regeneration on critical hits. Since we will be shooting our stacked deck so much, this will allow us to maintain ammo, regenerate shields, and our traversal attack from the previously mentioned firearm augment. We have our Professor Ivo's traversal matrix so that we can afflict burn on enemies hit by our traversal attack when our melee has the burn affliction. Same as Lawless for our melee, we have melee damage, suicide strike damage, and affliction resource from melee hits. Next, for the Corrupted Heatwave's grenade, we have grenade pickup radius, grenade drop chance, and once again, plus 3% traversal attack resource for each enemy hit with a grenade. This will be very effective when combined with a tier 1 Catwoman set that will drop live grenades on critical hits and will support our stack deck's traversal resource regeneration on critical hits. King Shark was set up with a very specific combat flow that allows him to eliminate any non-vehicular enemy at any level. We achieve this by building around the Half-Fester melee that instantly kills enemies that are below 50% health after you perform a shield harvest on them. When paired with a Captain Cold and Heatwave villain synergy, any burning enemies that are above 50% health will be instantly reduced to 50% when you freeze them. Next, we want to focus on how we can increase our shield harvest chance through our talents, gear augments, and some gear abilities like the Corrupted Gentleman Ghost Grenade or the Give Tribute Traversal mod, which is exclusive to King Shark. When enemies are hit by the Corrupted Gentleman Ghost Grenade, they are marked as an undead spirit and will become shield harvestable when they reach 50% health. We can also increase the damage of our next grenade by up to 1000% whenever we perform enough shield harvests, which can be a nice bonus. Another way to guarantee shield harvestable enemies when they reach the 50% mark is our Give Tribute Traversal mod that causes any enemies hit with our traversal attack to become harvestable. This is a 100% chance upon traversal attack hits. Now, all we have to do is apply burn, which is done by our assault rifle, Firefly's Pyromaniac, where critical hits on enemies will burn them. We can increase our critical hit chance by choosing the Beachhead Battler, which will increase our critical hit chance with assault rifles by plus 20% on enemies within 20 meters. Ferocious Jaws gives us an additional 10% critical hit chance, and Unending Fury will give an additional 50% chance. Through talents alone, King Shark can get an 80% critical hit chance on enemies within 20 meters and while using an assault rifle. And we can't forget our gear augments as well, which can get us another 17.5% critical hit chance from our firearm and our shield. This will total 97.5% critical hit chance before spending any squad skills. Then we either toss our grenade to either mark enemies as undead spirits and freeze them right after, or we can immediately freeze the enemy and follow with our traversal attack. When we shield harvest the enemy with 50% health or lower, they will instantly die and deal up to 25% of their maximum health as damage to enemies within 10 meters. In addition to that, our Corrupted Two-Face Lucky Charm will burn and punish all enemies within 20 meters when we kill an enemy with a shield harvest. This can allow us to continue to any nearby enemies without having to shoot our firearm if they are close enough. We use the tier 1 Bane piece so that each melee hit we have a 50% chance to craze enemies and a 50% chance to drop grenade ammo. Combining a Bane Infamy piece with a Two-Face Notorious item will have a 100% chance to drop grenade ammo whenever we harvest enemies thanks to their villain synergy bonus. With King Shark's gear and augments, my focus was regaining our traversal attack quickly, afflicting burn with Firefly's Pyromaniac, and afflicting deep freeze from melee affliction strikes and affliction grenades. Similar to Mrs. Freeze, we don't have to worry about increasing our damage since our damage will come from our villain synergy of Frosty Reception and the Half-Vester melee. Our firearms both have critical hit chance and traversal attack resource on critical hits, while the shield harvest chance is there for additional support but can be changed. On the Half-Vester melee, a bit similar with shield harvest chance, traversal attack resource on melee kills, and affliction resource from melee hits. The Corrupted Gentleman Ghost grenade was set up with grenade pickup radius, grenade drop chance, and traversal attack resource for each enemy hit with a grenade. On our Corrupted Two-Faces coin, we went with grenade pickup radius, squad ultimate duration, and plus 1% shield regeneration on critical hits. This allows us to easily pick up any grenades while giving another source of shield regeneration. The squad ultimate duration, same as always, gives us time to focus on the flow while slowing down all non-flash infused enemies. That is why we also have it on our neck mod. From the tier 1 Bane set, Venom Tolerance, alongside the Frozen Resistance and Affliction passive resource buildup. Our traversal is Give Tribute with even more grenade pickup radius and traversal attack resource regeneration. Last but not least, on our tier 3 Captain Cold Shield suspension, we have our critical hit chance, yet another traversal attack resource, and affliction resource from enemy kills. There is a bit of redundancy with my selected augments for King Shark's loadout, but it is entirely up to you if you would like to make any changes. This is what worked for me because I want to always have the ability to burn, freeze, and use my traversal attack at any time since that will be our main combat loop. This squad composition with the gear setups allowed me to switch seamlessly between characters without sacrificing power. I hope this insight into how I think about my squad setup, the gear, the augments, and the talents can help you craft your squad in the way you want. Sometimes the compositions will be made up of varying infamy tiers or different sets from different episodes entirely, and other times they may have a mutual set of core items that each character will share. And in this video, it was the tier 1 Catwoman set, Feline Grace. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, maybe learned something new, and if you did, consider liking and sharing the video as it does help the channel and I greatly appreciate it. That'll do it for this video, everyone. Thanks for watching and stay subbed for more. Have a wonderful day.